What's up everybody? This is the 2023 Toyota Prius Prime. And so as far as the Prime version of the Prius here, so it gets up to 44 miles of all electric range and extra power, about 25 extra horsepower over the regular Prius. And of course it gets the same great styling as the all new Prius as well. And so for the Prime version here, the main differences are that you have some unique wheels here, and also the grade strategy is a little different. So instead of the LE and the XLE and the Limited, with this it's SE, XSE, and then the XSE Premiums. And so, I mean, it just looks so good though. I mean, these new Priuses still are just impressive looking, and I mean, everyone comments on them. Everyone loves the styling, like universally. It's really impressive. Part of that is because of the dimensional changes too. It's 2 inches lower now. It's an inch wider and an inch longer. And so those proportions really help as well. But I mean, just the way there's this crazy rake to the windshield, it really stands out. So out back, you also will see that you now have a clear or a smoked taillight bar there versus the red one on a regular Prius. But aside from that, I mean, you really can't tell the Prime versions apart aside from the badge on the back that tells you it's a Prime. But I mean, overall, the new Prius still just looks so good. The interior of the Prius Prime is mostly the same as a regular Prius that I already covered a few months back. So at the end of this video, I will link that one if you want a more in-depth deep dive on this interior. But as far as the accents here for the Prime that are unique, you will see you have this red bit on the dash there, and also some red ambient lighting, which is great. You also have the red here on the seats and the red stitching, and it's really nice as far as those little enhancements just to jazz it up a little bit more. Otherwise though, it's all the same basic options you can get on this versus regular Prius, and still a very nice place to be on the inside. Nice comfortable seats, great steering wheel. These gauges are also pretty nice. It's a little bit unique with the way that's set up, but honestly they work really well and haven't gotten in my way or anything. Also here we're in a mid-grade XSE trim where it's an option to get this 12.3 inch touchscreen on this trim, and on the SE you'll just have an 8 inch screen as standard. Then if you go for the XSE Premium, this screen will be standard in that trim. But otherwise, one really great thing with the Prime that is unique is you have a heated steering wheel as standard, which is kind of unheard of these days in any trim to have a heated steering wheel as standard. So you have that. This one also just has heated seats. You can get cooled seats in the XSE Premium as well. And just all the great, storage spaces you have here in this. The materials are pretty nice for the price point. This one has the moonroof, which is really nice. And also the back seat's great. You have, plenty of legroom. I'm 5'9", plenty of legroom, good amount of headroom there. And the only other compromise here is that for the Prime version, you do have a tiny bit less cargo space. They said that the floor is just a tiny bit higher than on a regular Prius. But aside from that, still decent amount of space in the back there. They did downsize compared to the previous generation Prius as far as cargo space goes there in the back, but still should be really usable. You still have the seats that fold down, and the hatchback versatility should really help you as well. But let's start up and go for a drive. The Prius Prime actually does have a unique key here that says Prius Prime on it. Really cool. Nice buttons there on the back, and not too big of a key or anything either, just really nice. And of course it is keyless access, keyless entry, and push button start here in all Priuses. They come standard with the smart key, which is great. So you just leave the key in your pocket, and the engine power button here, and it turns right on. All right, so I'm setting off here in the Prius Prime, and I have with me Eric from RevMatch TV. Thanks for joining us, Eric, and riding along here. We're drive partners on this trip today.
Thanks for having me. It's an honor to be on the OG YouTuber car channel.
You're too kind. But so anyway, yeah, we're gonna head out here and have a few little drive loops. We're gonna test out some features here in the Prius Prime. But I mean, the main thing here with the Prime is that you have the electric range. That's the big improvement. Many of you loved the Prius, whenever we covered that here just a few months ago. And so now with the Prime, the big main headline thing here is that in the SEs you get 44 miles of electric range, 39 here for the XSE. We're in a regular XSE. There's also an XSE Premium, and then the SE. So we're kind of in the mid-grade here. So, but I mean, that's enough range for everyone to do their daily commutes in. And it's, impressive too, because you get a horsepower bump, which we'll talk about here in a second when we do an acceleration. But so it's extra power, the great electric range, and you still get really good fuel economy, even though you're gaining about, they say about 100 pounds, 96 pounds. So. It's honestly, for adding a bigger battery and the extra motor and stuff, I mean, I'm impressed that it's, only 96 pounds heavier, honestly.
And what's really impressive compared to the last generation, I was talking with the chief engineer, he said that they tried to hit the weight of the last generation, the weight target, but they couldn't quite get it. They were a little bit higher, I think about 60 pounds or so more than the last generation. But you can talk about the refinement. What you're getting for those extra few pounds is phenomenal.
Oh yeah, I mean, like we talked about with the regular Prius, whenever we covered that, it's so nice in here. I mean, so much I think, firmer and sportier with the ride quality, but also just more comfortable in general. It's less, sloppy than the last generation was. And the last generation was fine. It was just set up to be very soft. And I think this kind of is a nice blend of the sportiness and the smoothness. And it's also really quiet in here. I mean, some Toyotas can be a little noisier, but this one is really impressive with the quietness.
There's so much more refinement in here than the last generation. I think that's the one thing that I really noticed. That was just a more basic, more economy kind of vibe. This just feels like they've really upgraded the thing and really brought their A game forward, and just feels like this is now in line with the rest of the Toyota products. So it's like the interior, the ride quality, all that is like really a big step up.
Right, and so part of that's thanks to the TNGA-C platform, which is shared with the Corolla as well. But I mean, in this here, it gives you a lower center of gravity, extra rigidity, all those things to really help any vehicle to drive better and also be more comfortable. So it's kind of the best of all the worlds as far as that improvement. And so, we're in EV mode right now, and so it has a few different modes. There's an auto mode, which will, intelligently go between the electric and the hybrid functions, and then there's also, of course, a dedicated EV mode if you want to keep it in that. And it is going to try and drain the battery as the priority, and give you the most efficient drive possible. And so I'm going a good bit, and the gas engine is not kicking on. So you can, even in auto mode here, you can get on the gas, and that's the nice thing is they improve this electric motor. I think it's 161 horsepower on its own. So you can actually do your full daily drive in electric mode. And that's huge. Some people are disappointed there isn't a fully electric Prius. This is kind of a fully electric Prius for 99% of most people's usage cases, I feel like, because how many people do actually go more than 44 miles every day for their daily commutes?
Yeah, most people, I think the statistical average is about 40 miles is the maximum. So if you're commuting back and forth, you can do it completely on electricity now for the first time because it's a plug-in.
Yeah.
And it charges up overnight without any issue. You can use 120, or you can put in a level 2 charger, and that's going to charge in about 4 hours in the level 2. I think about 11 hours on the 120. And we were just talking about the gas prices now when we did my drive, and they're around $3.50 where you are per gallon. They're about $5 here. Gas prices ain't going down.
Yeah.
They're not going down.
Right. So they're just taking off from the light. It did kick on the gas engine there. So, if you do really want to make sure you drain that battery first and foremost, you can go ahead and put it in that EV mode.
For a lot of people, full electric is just not really that good an option, especially if you live in a rural area. This is going to work basically in all conditions.
And also, like what they were saying, which is a very valid point, they make a good point where they said we could put out 7 or 8 of these Prius Primes, or we could use those same battery materials to make one of the average EV on the road with an 80 to 100 kilowatt hour battery. And if everyone's only doing 44 miles anyway, every day or less, then you kind of get that EV thing. You have that electric commute for everyone, but you're using way less materials to do it. And Toyota really thinks that's the smarter way to go about that, and I tend to agree that, it makes more sense. You get more of these out there with less materials, and I think it's going to really be a benefit to Toyota down the road with all these supply constraints on battery components. With something like this, they can still keep churning them out because you only have a 13.6 kilowatt hour battery here in this. But like we said, that's enough for all your commuting and plenty of power too. So we're at another red light here. So I'm going to go ahead and put it up into just dedicated electric mode here. And we'll do a little acceleration. So I'm like 3/4 throttle there. I mean, we just got up to 40 miles per hour, no problem. Traffic's way behind us. You can still smoke people in this thing, even in electric mode. So, so if you really do want to make sure you do prioritize that battery, then just put it in that electric mode. And then, I think you have plenty of power. And I'm definitely excited to do an acceleration here, though, and see when it gives you the full 220 how that feels. But yeah, I think it's still plenty of punch. It's certainly so much better than all the old plug-in hybrids that, like, if you had a whisper of a headwind, or you had, any kind of uphill grade, it just would not even, be like, all right, we're going to kick on the gas engine. And this thing, you actually have solid electric punch.
There's so much more power in this than the last generation. It's sort of hard to explain it on video.
Yeah.
There is way more range and way more torque in this motor too. I actually haven't stated the torque figures on the electric motor, but it's pretty strong in here. But on broken pavement, it feels quite good. It seems to absorb the bumps with a lot of compliance, without a lot of drama. You don't get a lot of impacts coming into the cabin.
Yeah.
It feels like nicely damped. Like this is, oh, there's another one.
Yeah. And they did say that, you know, they did some suspension tuning changes, but of course that's mostly just to compensate for the extra weight of the battery. So I feel like handling wise is pretty consistent to what you get with the regular Prius. Another thing handling wise I guess we can kind of mention is, as we're driving through this wet part of the road here, you only have front wheel drive with the Prius Prime. So they were asked why they didn't do all wheel drive, and it's just a packaging thing between, you know, trying to fit in a gas tank, a battery pack, and a rear electric motor. It's just too much to ask. They can't fit all that in. So that's the reason why the all-wheel drive is only on the regular Prius and not here on the Prime. But, you know, I mean, as long as you're taking it, you know, relatively easy, as long as it's a ton of power, you have nice skinny tires, which should help you if you are in a snowy place. You know, I'm sure it'll be fine for most people. But it is great, you know, you're not giving up that much, you know, with the regular Prius all-wheel drive. You know, you're only down, you know, less than 25 horsepower, and yes, you don't have the electric range, but you still have fantastic fuel economy, and that's a great option if you must have that all-wheel drive. But now we got some actual proper corners here. Okay, so it really, especially here in sport mode, it wanted to really, you know, scoot out of that corner really nicely, and yeah, it just feels so flat and composed. And I mean, yeah, I'm just so impressed with how this feels. It's
there's not much body roll.
Yeah. Yeah, and also helps run these 19-inch wheels, which is what you get on the XSE and the XSE Premium. You will go down to 17s on the SE, and that's how you get the best fuel economy and also the best electric range, of course. But, you know, I think these 19s, though, are a nice balance. They look great. These 19s are exclusive here to the XSE and the Prime version in general as well.
And for the first time, there's actual feel in a Prius, in the steering system. You can actually feel what the tires are doing a little bit.
Yeah. Which is, yeah, a huge improvement for the Prius and just makes for a really good, yeah, car in general. And that combined with throttle response is really, again, very impressive here, especially in sport mode with that electric motor giving you instant zap there to really just give you on-demand power immediately. Brakes also feel pretty good here in sport mode and up at speed. So at lower speeds, it can, you know, be a little bit odd, but honestly, it's pretty consistent most of the time as far as, you know, it blends all the regen. You can do different regen modes. There's no one pedal mode here in the Prime or in any Prius for that matter, but there are a few different regen settings. You can have it a little bit more aggressive, and it will save that between key cycles if you are someone who likes a lot more regen, or if you want to coast a little bit more. There is a setting in the screen where you can custom tailor that. There's also a custom drive mode where you can set things up to exactly how you want them to be as well. But as far as just basic, you know, handling stuff goes, other things, it's about 3,571 pounds here for a top fully loaded one. Again, this mid-grade might be a little bit lighter. You go down about 100 pounds, be under 3,500 pounds for an SE. And so, I mean, that's also commendable these days with, you know, cars ballooning in weight. The fact that this kept the weight gain very minimal, and you have so much extra stuff, extra power. It's I think it's just very, very impressive, and it feels nice too. I mean, on these corners now, it, you know, feels nice and light, nice and low, since you are lower than the previous gen Prius, and it just honestly feels good. I mean, we were talking in your video about, you know, comparisons of the Civic Si, which this is faster than, by the way. It's not like you can push this as much as the Civic Si and you have less tire, but that's something you could fix easily if you want to do wider tires and give up some range in MPG, you can. And I feel like this on the same tires as an Si, like, it wouldn't be far off. Like, yes, you don't have the mechanical limited slip diff and the stiffer tuning of the Si, but for the average person that's not canyon carving on a daily basis, this gets close enough that if you want an automatic SI that's actually faster, I think there's a case to be made here. Call me crazy, but
I think you're right. I mean, the thing with the Civic is it's a manual and it's a much more sort of tactile, engaged car. So if you want that, absolutely. But if you need something that is going to be a little bit more all-around, especially in terms of economy, this handles really well. And you're right, with fatter tires on here, I think this would be pretty good in a canyon, to be honest. Yeah, you could probably put in some roll bars in here and tune the handling. There's nothing to be upset about at all with the handling in this compared to, you know, compared to the last generation. This is like a revelation.
Yeah. I mean, we're enthusiasts, and I mean, I have no complaints with the dynamic qualities of this vehicle. I think it's actually pretty fun, pretty engaging. I would happily have one of these as a daily driver. And even again, if it's your only car and you want something fun, yes, this isn't going to be as satisfying to, you know, pull, do a 0 to 60 like you would in a Civic Si or something without the manual and all that. But speaking of 0 to 60 though, we are in a place where there's no one around basically, and we have a nice straight bit of road here. So let's do an acceleration finally and see how it does. And we're in auto mode, and here we go. All right, a little bit of a second there where I think it was limiting power, and then it pulls nicely. It's a strong amount of power. So they're claiming a 6.6 seconds 0 to 60. Yep. It is 220 horsepower total from the 2-liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder, which does have the dual injection. It runs on 87 to get those numbers. You don't need any kind of special gas. But I mean, 6.6 seconds, which I also have to add for anyone who's coming out of the old Prius Prime. I mean, this is going to feel like a rocket ship compared to the old one. You're talking about almost a 4-second faster 0 to 60. Tell me another car in automotive history that from one generation to another is almost 4 seconds faster than the 0 to 60. I don't think it's ever been done until the Prius and the Prius Prime. I mean, maybe that's an odd bragging right, but it's just like, and it even, does a little bit of torque steer, a little bit of, just chirping the tires, and it's just really, I don't know, like, I'm actually having a lot of fun here driving this thing, and I can only imagine, I'd love to see some type of GR version someday that could be even more exciting. But even as this is, it is really great.
It's surprisingly quick. It will put a lot of cars to shame, and especially with the economy that you're getting here.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
It's tough to argue with.
Is there a traction control? Oh, there is traction control, so you could turn it off if you wanted to.
Yeah, we got another turn coming up here.
A little more squeal action.
Yeah, we'll try that out and see. And that also might help with limiting the power a little bit, because I did feel a little bit of a torque limit there when I first stomped on it, but still, again, feels very punchy. And again, still faster than a Civic Si by like a half a second faster. We're not talking about a tenth of a second or something. Like, those are like, what, 7.1 seconds, which is about what the regular Prius will match as well, about a 7 seconds 0 to 60. But this 6.6, and like you mentioned, that's even not far off from like the GR86 and stuff these days.
Right.
So
yeah, the GR86 is, when the automatic is like around 6.2, something like that.
Yeah.
Fight me in the comments if I'm wrong.
All right, traction control is turned off, and wait for some traffic to clear here a little bit.
Get that squeal.
And here we go. All right. Well, it like did a little bit of like a hopping thing there, where I feel like it actually did cut traction control still a little bit and came back on and off.
It was
confused a little bit.
It was confused.
But it was spinning the tires. So, yeah, if you are an enthusiast, make sure you have some budget for some tires, because this thing is more than happy. I mean, it's not going to roast them like, I don't know, something else like a Accord 2.0T with no, limited slip or anything. But it is enough power that we are roasting the tires in a, Prius. It's just like, what a world we're living in. It's truly, truly impressive.
It was interesting. That was all the electric motor limiting your slip there. Basically, when I felt there was too much slip, it was like,
yeah, let's keep dialing you back.
Cut the power.
That's so funny.
That was interesting. What I like about this combination, so you've got the electric motor and you've got the 2-liter gas engine, and you get a lot of torque right off the line, because it takes a second for the engine to get into its power band, but it's pretty quick because of the CVT, and then you got all that electric torque at the same time too. It's really quite off the line, is actually where it's quite impressive.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, like any other EV, that's always the thing plants you in your seat. That's the impressive thing, is just how, that instant 100% torque at 0 RPM, is always the impressive thing. And now climbing hills, you can certainly hear that engine some more, and it is one thing, this runs an eCVT, and so the eCVT certainly will still do the thing where it kind of holds the 1 RPM, and does its thing to, sort out the best efficiency. And I mean, for a vehicle like this where you want the most efficiency, it makes sense. They're not going for the most audibly pleasing character, but it's still, just one little minor thing that's, not amazing about these.
Yeah, it's not an engine sound that inspires enthusiasts to, rally around, go, we want more of that.
Yeah, although I'd love to hear one of these with an exhaust, just being the crazy, tuner in me, like wanting that, I think it'd be kind of fun. Just someone's got to do it. Put an exhaust on one of these and see how it sounds.
Somebody will do it.
Yeah.
But what I do like is the whirring sounds of the electric motor combined with the gas motor. That actually sounds kind of neat to me.
Yeah, no, I agree. And like you mentioned earlier, it's a little bit stronger than it is in the regular Prius too. And also, whenever you do want to slow down in one of these, one thing that's important to note is the brakes are the same as the regular Prius. So even though you have a little bit more performance, a little more weight, brakes are the same 11 inches. And interestingly though, you get larger brakes on the front of the all-wheel drive one. They're 12-inch rotors in the front there, but here on Prime, since it's front-wheel drive, it just gets the front-wheel drive brakes, which means 11 inches instead. And you know, I mean, it's still a light vehicle, still not going super fast or anything, so totally sufficient braking. I haven't had any issues as far as the strength of the brakes. And really great though with this nice tight corner coming up here. Okay, see, I pushed a little bit, but honestly, it's not too bad. I think the handling is really impressive. We got a few more nice little spaghetti winding roads here. We can test out the handling a little bit more. And also, it's great you have, all right.
Yeah.
This thing,
Yeah.
wow, it powered out of the corner. Wow, that was impressive. Yeah, I'm standing by my assessment that this is a good alternative to the Civic Si. If you want an automatic and better fuel economy, this is this is really good. And this road is fantastic. That certainly helps. But I mean, man, I'm having a lot of fun in this. You also have, you know, independent rear suspension and stuff. So I mean, it's pretty sophisticated as far as the platform and the chassis and the suspension and everything. And so, yeah, I think this thing, especially you put some better tires on it, if you don't mind sacrificing efficiency, you could really have something here. I almost want to do a Prius build because this like is inspiring me. Like, I want to see what this platform can do because it seems so good. And I really hope they do some type of GR version someday because I think that could be really, really cool.
I think the underlying platform is really a huge step up from the last generation here, because now we're on the TNGA C platform, this architecture.
Yeah.
And there's just a lot more weld points in here. It's just a stiffer structure, and so that gives Toyota a lot more flexibility to tune the suspension in a more sporting way without losing any of the ride quality. In fact, the ride quality is better in here than the old Prius, right?
Yeah, I think so. So it's really, really impressive. And yeah, but then whenever you are settling down, you're not hooning around like we are, you can get really good fuel economy too. I mean, you don't give up much compared to the regular Prius. So these are rated, if you're going for an XSE with these bigger wheels, you're doing about 50, I believe, in this city. And I think combined, you're, a little bit under that. But they do max out at 52 mpg combined for the SE there with the smaller wheels. And so, I mean, that's not far off. It's only a couple mpg compared to the other, non-plug-in hybrid Prius. And so,
right,
yeah.
and that's, if you're using the gas engine all the time, so that's presuming that you can't plug in.
Yeah.
But most times, you're going to be able to plug in, and you're going to be getting, infinite MPG because you're not going to be using any gas at all. So conceivably, you could get this, and you could drive around for a couple of months, and the engine's probably just going to turn on every now and then just to cycle through the gas tank.
Right.
But you could drive this thing without using gas for quite a while.
Yeah, and then even more so if you have the solar roof, which is one of the other things we haven't mentioned yet. This has a solar roof option. It's only on the top XSE Premium as an option on that. So, even a regular XSE Premium doesn't come with it standard. But if you do get it, I think they said like 185 watts, and they gave a rough estimate of what was around 700 miles over the course of a year in ideal circumstances.
Right, about 775. So,
okay.
We could assume that would be like sitting out in sunny California all day long.
Right. But that's really cool that, you have that extra little bit. I don't think we saw pricing for that option, at least I don't recall.
No.
But, as long as it's priced reasonably, I mean, that is a really great option, because they said, for example, they gave the example of going to the airport and parking outside for a week. You can come back with a couple extra miles of range. They said you could have enough extra range to get yourself home on electric power. Again, we will have to test these and park them outside ourselves and see what we actually get in the real world. So that's still TBD as far as how much it actually helps you, but it does help you. And they said that the solar power there, it can both charge the accessory battery whenever you're up and moving, and then whenever you're parked, that's when it can actually charge the traction battery and give you extra range too. So some other solar stuff, it basically just kind of helps out with powering everything in the car, but this one actually will give you more range. So potentially this is a vehicle you never get stranded. You could, even if you ran out of gas and electric power, you just sit around long enough.
You just have to have a lot of time.
And it'll limp itself back, eventually. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, I don't think I'll be putting that to the test.
Nah, I don't think. Yeah, we shouldn't try that. But I'm sure someone will at some point, someday. And but it's really cool they offer that.
Yeah, no pricing on it, but I'm willing to bet it's going to be kind of expensive.
Yeah. But I feel like it's totally worth it.
So what do you think about the pricing of this compared to the regular Prius?
It's one of those things where you do pay a little bit of extra money, like anything else, where you pay more money for more performance, you pay more money for extra efficiency and the electric range. Plug-in hybrids are always more expensive, so with those things going into it, I think pricing starts around 33,
32, I think, for the SE.
Okay, and then I think with destination and stuff added on, it's like 33 and change.
Right.
And then going up to an XSE Premium is, I think, right around 40-ish, including destination. And then this, being an XSE non-premium, this might be a little bit more in between. So at that price point, yeah, you are, a few grand over what you're paying for a regular Prius. That's going to come down to, like we were talking about in your video, I don't think you're going to get your gas savings. It's going to be a long time before, because you just have so much efficiency with the regular Prius that even if you are doing 100% of your driving in electric mode, basically just burning through a tank of gas just so the gas doesn't go bad, like even in that scenario, it's going to be a long time, I think, before you make up the 4 or 5 grand, or it's maybe like $3,500.
Yeah, it's about 4 to 5 grand on average, depending on the trim level.
Yeah,
the difference in price. So that that is a fair bit of money, but I don't think that's really the value proposition behind getting this. I think it's because you like tech, you like cool things,
and the tech is top notch too. So having the big screen, there's hardly anything in this segment that has a 12-inch screen, and all the high-end features of the cooled seats that are available, the pano roof. These are things you don't even have the option to get in a Civic or something like that. So the fact that you have some of the things that really elevate it beyond just the average compact sedan class, in addition to the extra efficiency and performance just on the interior. If you're just someone who doesn't care about what's under the hood, but you just want a small car with a pano roof and cooled seats, there's very few options out there for you, and it's just kind of cool that they're being able to load these up as much as they are.
Yeah, there's the Prius has gone more premium than it was before, at least in terms of the options. You can always start with the base one and keep it pretty conservative. You're going to get your best fuel economy, but you're able to go much more upmarket than you were before. So they've really positioned this car as something that enthusiasts would be okay driving. People who really like to drive are going to enjoy this, and people who want a little bit more styling and not just have like grandma's Prius that she went to church in every Sunday.
Yeah.
This sort of ticks all those boxes.
But now we're out on the highway here, and we're just cruising at regular highway speeds with traffic, and you do have some elevated road noise here now, and but honestly, I think for this segment of vehicle, this even this regular compact sedans, I'd say this is still totally appropriate with what you get from anything else in this segment. And you can actually try out the adaptive cruise here. It does have adaptive cruise as standard, like any Toyota with the Toyota Safety Suite 3.0 here, and so really great that you have all of that. And we'll put on, it has the lane trace assist, which is also standard. Toyota's new lane trace assist system is really good. Their old one was very passive. This one is a little more assertive with basically trying to do almost like a level 2 kind of thing. Not quite there. You still have to have your hands on the wheel. You're paying attention here. And these, but this one, that is one of the exclusive things here for the Prime, is you do have the traffic jam assist, which speeds under 25 miles per hour. It will do hands-free assistance, and you can take your hands off the wheel at that point, but you still be paying attention. But with that, it will, give you all that. So if you're inching up in traffic, you don't have to have your hands on the wheel, and it will give you that steering assist, which is great. And so the adaptive cruise system, though, in general works really well, just like any other, adaptive cruise system. They're all pretty smooth these days, and this one, is nice and smooth with the braking and accelerating, and the lane centering is also pretty good here so far.
I think at this price point, there is not another vehicle that has something like the traffic start, stop, and go assist for around 30, mid 30s. I don't think there's any other car in this class that has that. And that's,
I think the only other hands-free thing that's remotely, which is actually cheaper than this though, is the Chevy Bolt. The Bolt EUV, you can get Super Cruise in that. But aside from that, yeah, nothing else ever lets you do hands-free stuff.
That's pretty good, and I've been super impressed with the whole Toyota Safety Sense 3.0 in this car. I had a car for about a week, and it's really good on the freeway. I can't believe I'm so enthusiastic about a Prius. It sounds like I work for Toyota, which I clearly don't. I'm a Toyota fanboy, admittedly, but this car has changed my mind about what the Prius is in a big way.
100%, me too. I mean, I've been very impressed with all the new Toyotas over the past few years, and I'm a huge fan of them now as well. But I mean, yeah, I feel like I'm getting paid to say this, but I'm not. Like, that I genuinely am just fawning over this thing because it's just so good. But anyway, that's all of our thoughts here on the 2023 Toyota Prius Prime. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Please also make sure you leave a like, a comment, and subscribe to keep these videos coming. Huge thanks also to Toyota for providing us here with this opportunity. And lastly, thanks so much, Eric, for riding along here and for giving all your thoughts here. It's been great driving with you today.
Oh, my pleasure. It's been a blast. Thanks for letting me into your video.
Absolutely. Thank you all very much for watching. We'll see you on the next one. Take care.